Hi guys, this is Mrs. Rasmussen, and in case you are wondering, if you're in my first period class, why I am not with you this morning, I am taking my little boy Connor Rasmussen to kindergarten this morning. So I wanted to make a quick video for you just to review the parts of the summer assignment, make sure that you are doing it correctly, and hopefully answer some questions that you have about post-it note annotation. So I have some examples, I'm going to read a little bit to you, and hopefully answer any questions or concerns that you're having, because your summer assignment is due tomorrow, August 26th. So if you have done some of the assignment, I would go ahead and attempt to finish it. If you have not done any of the assignment, I would suggest that you plan on completing the alternate assignment, which I will be talking about in class on Tuesday. So we have a couple of options there. The option you don't have is to not complete anything. So you will complete the summer assignment or the alternate assignment. So let's talk a little bit about the original assignment. And that was to read the novel Ethan Frome. I have a copy of it right here. You can kind of see I've marked some of these already with post-it notes, and I have some annotations. And I took those annotations and put them onto this chart. So hopefully it's a little bit easier for you to see. So I have my chart split up here into the 4 categories. Symbol, those are your pink post-its. Character, your yellow. Blue, your thematic patterns. And green for setting. Okay, so I want to read to you a little passage really quick. This is from page 3 in my book. So this is from the very beginning of the reading, when the narrator has just arrived in Starkfield and he's meeting some different people and he first sees Ethan Frome. So let me read you this short passage, and then we'll talk about, what you would do with it. Because if you'll try to do this while you're reading, it's going to be a little bit easier, because you're kind of clearer on what's going on at that time instead of trying to come back and do it later. So, for example, I'm going to read 2 paragraphs, and with those 2 paragraphs, I'm going to decide where that text evidence would fit best, which of the 4 categories it would fit into best. Here we go. This is on page 3. Though Harmon Gow developed the tale as far as his mental and moral reach permitted, there were perceptible gaps between his facts, and I had the sense that the deeper meaning of the story was in the gaps. But one phrase stuck in my memory and served as the nucleus about which I grouped my subsequent inferences. Guess he's been in Starkfield too many winters. Before my own time there was up, I had learned to know what that meant. Yet I had come in the degenerate day of trolley, bicycle, and rural delivery, when communication was easy between the scattered mountain villages and the bigger towns and the valleys, such as Betts Bridge and Shadd's Falls, had libraries, theaters, and YMCA halls, to which the youth of the hills could descend for recreation. But when winter shut down on Starkfield, and the village lay under a sheet of snow perpetually renewed from the pale skies, I began to see what life there, or rather, its negation, must have been in Ethan Frome's young manhood. So, for example, I just read a short passage. And while I was reading that passage, I was thinking about certain chunks of the text, such as the famous quote throughout the book, "Guess he's been in Starkfield too many winters." So, what does that mean? What does it mean to be in Starkfield in winter? How does that affect these characters, and what does it do to them? So I want to be thinking about that. I also want to think about when winter shut down on Starkfield. So that sounds really negative, right? Almost like the winter is a force, and nature can often be a force in novels. So the weather and the setting and all the coldness and the snow, those are all things that I want to pay attention to. So those could fit lots of places. That could fit in my thematic box, it could fit in setting, or it could fit in symbol. So think a little bit outside the box. Don't just think of symbols as objects. Symbols can be people, they can be settings, all those things can be symbolic. So try to think with more of that perspective when you're reading. So let's look at an example. Let's start with symbol. This is the example that you had on your summer assignment handout, the red scarf that Maddie wears all the time. So I identified the symbol, or you can see it right here, red scarf, okay? And my text evidence, you can read it there. And then the most important thing, my commentary. Maddie Silver wears the color red many times throughout the novel. She's full of life and vivacity because she's not been trapped in Starkfield her entire life. Maddie represents passion and love, which Ethan is immediately drawn to when he meets her for the first time because he lacks passion in his own life. Okay, so let's just emphasize the fact that I did not write a short novel for my response. It's short, it's concise, but it is full of deeper thinking. For example, the opposite here that's brought up, the difference between Maddie and Ethan. Ethan lacks passion. He's not a passionate person by nature. And so Maddie really appeals to him because of that character trait. Let's look at character. Of course, the easiest character that you're probably going to find the most about is going to be Ethan himself. So the text evidence here, even then he was the most striking figure in Starkfield, though he was but the ruin of a man. It was not so much his great height that marked him, for the natives were easily singled out by their lank longitude for the stockier foreign breed. It was the careless, powerful look he had, in spite of a lameness checking each step like the jerk of a chain. So here we learn a couple things about him. Number one, ruin of a man. So you can imagine he does not have a big smile on his face. He's not skipping down the sidewalk. He is a very dark, depressed, quiet man. He looks ruined, physically and emotionally. So part of his physical ruin is that he has a lameness in his leg. Not lame like he's silly, or that's stupid. Lame as in he cannot walk. So he has a lot of difficulty walking. So that's a very revealing piece of text evidence there. So let's look at the commentary. Ethan is described as ruined, which implies he looks defeated by life and appears much older than he actually is. Life has worn him down and has given him the careless look the narrator describes. He is also afflicted by a lameness, meaning he has difficulty walking. In literature, characters often have physical impairments which reflect an inner conflict or problem. Okay, now where did I get that? Got that from How to Read Literature Like a Professor. So that was the other piece that I asked you to read prior to beginning this part of the assignment. So if you haven't looked at How to Read Literature Like a Professor, we will do that later on together. But look through that book, and it really is going to help you match up some of these elements that are in the book and help you see their greater significance. Okay, let's look at these last two, thematic patterns and setting. I was really nice and gave you the thematic patterns on your summer assignment sheet. So really you just had to pick the ones that you wanted to use, and those are the only ones that you had to provide evidence for. So you had to do 3 of those. So for example, the first thematic pattern is isolation. The text evidence: on the farther side of the hemlock belt, the open country rolled away before them, gray and lonely under the stars. Here and there a farmhouse stood far back among the fields, mute and cold as a gravestone. Well, anytime I see anything about graves, death, I mean, those are all going to be dark images, things that might have other connotations or patterns connected to them. So this one's isolation. The farmhouse is away from the town. It's all by itself. There's no one around. The characters don't interact with anyone else other than the 3 of them. So let's look at the commentary. Ethan, Maddie, and Dina live far away from town and remain isolated for long periods of time. The geographical isolation of the farmhouse causes these 3 characters to isolate themselves from each other and society as well. This isolation only intensifies the gloominess and dreariness of the setting, and characters demonstrating that a location does affect those living there. So Starkfield, again, kind of has its own force. It isolates the characters, it keeps them from leaving, it traps them almost. So that's something important to remember. So that would be an example. The word isolation is not anywhere in this text evidence. So when you're looking for thematic elements, those are not listed in black and white. You have to imply those things. So I'm not looking for this word in your text evidence. I'm looking for an example that demonstrates this theme. Okay? So look for that. And the last one, your green post-its for setting. So of course I chose Starkfield. In general, you could do different variations of Starkfield. The village lay under 2 feet of snow with drifts at the windy corners. In a sky of iron, the points of the dipper hung like icicles, and Orion flashed his cold fires. So Starkfield's a town that lives up to its name. It's stark, it's barren, it's cold, there's not much going on there. The sky's dark and the 2 feet of snow traps people in their homes and keeps them from building relationships with others. The weather also debilitates the town itself because no one can come in or get out during the harsh winter months. Starkville has fallen behind the rest of the world because nothing ever changes. Okay, so it's so isolated, it's so set apart, the weather's so severe that really people can't get in or out. So it's very difficult to leave. And Ethan demonstrates that point by the fact that he's never left. He's stayed there his whole life, even though he really wanted to leave at first. So those are some examples of what your post-it notes should look like. So that's what I'm looking for in terms of commentary and text evidence. So please make sure and go back and check your post-it notes. Okay, one word or one sentence of commentary is not going to be sufficient. So you need to attempt to write as much as you can. Okay, try, around 3 to 4 sentences for your commentary. And if you're having trouble, read the How to Read Literature Like a Professor book, because it really does show you how to read a piece of text and see the deeper meaning behind it, which is really what post-it note annotation is all about. So make sure that you have read the book. We will be doing a timed writing coming up at the beginning of next week. So if you have not read, make sure that you do that. And if you have questions, please write them down and we will talk about them later. Thank you.